synapse. It just
Yeah,
passes
not
by.
synapse, but does it go through the, or can it?
I have no idea.
So, like, do we have to
It gets
name-
there. Now, how what it looks like on the inside, whether you see the fibers looping around or whether they're just out of the way, smashing their way through, I have no idea. Yes, sir.
Between epaxial and hypaxial visceral muscles.
Yes.
And ascending and descending, how do you know like which one it's going to go to? Like ascend, descend, or do you go the epaxial or?
Hypaxial and apaxial are largely irrelevant to this. That's just whether the structure is next to the backbone or in the rest of the body. It's gonna after it synapses, its postganglionic is going to work its way back and go to a dorsal ramus, not a ventral ramus. That's just, the synapsing occurs at vertebral levels. Hypaxial and expaxial determines whether it ends up going, whether it comes after it synapses, whether the postganglionics go up to the dorsal ramus or whether they go down back into the ventral ramus. That's all hypaxial is. It's totally topographic. It has nothing to do with the wiring diagram. The ganglia are always hanging onto the ventral ramus. They just have a longer, as he said, they have a longer pathway. Yes?
I thought that the thoracic viscera, that was T1 through T5, where did that C1 come from? Remember how we always talk about T1 through T5 in thoracic structures?
Yeah, that's where the preganglionics come from.
Okay.
But some of those preganglionics don't necessarily, the postganglionic, they don't necessarily synapse there. The preganglionics can go up into the neck,
Okay.
synapse in the neck, and the postganglionics may come out
Gotcha.
at a higher level because hearts develop in your throat, and the closest ganglion is a cervical ganglion, and then it slides down and drags its nerves with it. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know what determines where the preganglionics originate, like on what level?
Why they're from T1 to L2? I have absolutely no idea.
Okay.
And I've been trying to find some coherent explanation of it for 30 years, and no one really knows why. I mean, it seems sort of dumb, Gee, they look, the vertebrae and spinal nerves in general look pretty much the same top to bottom, but gee, let's, just to screw them up, let's make the sympathetics come from this arbitrary group in the middle. I have no idea why preganglionics just come from there. Yes?
So where do the splagnic nerves innervate again, and what are key points?
You don't really have to know that. That's a gray information. We'll worry about it in the abdomen. They come from T5, T6, T7, T8, T9, T11, 12, blah, 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 but they don't synapse in any of the paravertebral ganglia. They have their own ganglia in other parts of in the body. That's why they're totally, preganglionics are fine. They still come from, the T1 through L2 level, but they don't, they're the one exception of preganglionics that don't either go up or down to find a place to synapse.
They synapse inside the blood?
No, they synapse near blood vessels.
What about the parasympathetic?
We haven't gotten there yet.
I thought from T1 to T5 that the preganglionics or can synapse in the paravertebral ganglion and then go straight from there, like the postganglionics, go from there to the visceral structures, like to the heart. They can't do that?
They can. Some may, but for the heart, most of them they go up. The preganglionics there, but they don't synapse at where the preganglionics go in at T1 through T5. They do not synapse at those paravertebral ganglia. They go up to the neck and synapse somewhere in the cervical region, and then send their postganglionics back down into the thorax.
So could they go straight from that level to can the postganglionic go from
They could, but they don't, because the heart starts out in your throat. And so when you're sitting there as an embryo about that big and you're trying to get these nerves there, they say, why are we going to go down to the thorax? The heart's right in front of me. So the postganglionics, we got to go up to the neck to find that heart. They go up the neck, the postganglionics go to the heart, and then slowly but surely the heart comes down, but it's already got its postganglionics and it drags them down. It's a mysterious world out there. Yes?
With the ascending or descending fibers, why doesn't it reach the superior cervical and that word that I can't say?
No, the reason, the point is, when you're at the superior cervical ganglia, there are no ascending fibers in that ganglion because there's nowhere to go.
Oh.
It's the end of the rail line. It's like, you know, if you're on the train coming from New York to Port Jefferson, and you're sitting there at the train station and you say, gee, I've been here all day and there's trains going east and there's trains going west. If you're sitting in Smithtown, you say, you know, I've been sitting here all day and the trains are going east and the trains are going west. And then the person from Port Jefferson says, well, that's odd. I see a whole lot of trains going west, but no one passes me going east, because that's the end of the line. So there's not, if you go to any of these other levels, you're going to find some fibers that are just going on their way to somewhere else. But when you get to the C1, there's nowhere to go. So things just come in, they don't pass through going up. And when you get to the bottom of the coccyx, no one's passing through going down because you're at the end of the line. That's all that was meant to show, that at any given ganglion, there's some stuff that's synapsing here, there's some stuff that's passing through on its way up, there's some stuff passing through on its way down. But when you get to the end of the line, there's nowhere to go up or there's nowhere to go down. Yes?
Is the light green meaning on
Gee, we'll take a vote. Okay, we got Peter here and Eric here. How many things we should make them know splanchnic nerves?
Well, I'm like not going to raise my hand.
You won't be invited to the party.
I'll tell you what, you have to be able to identify them because you're going to see them in today's dissection. Okay? But because they were gray in here, you don't have to know what they do until the next exam. Okay. So, once again. Okay. This is just showing, we got all these preganglionics coming out in here. This is what people have just been asking about. Okay, so you got preganglionics coming into here. Some of them are passing up. You got a gray ramus that goes from the cord into there, and then you've got you've got white ramus coming here, and then the gray ramus part going up into the dorsal ramus, and part going down into here. So here's all your heart stuff, which has traveled from here, gone up, synapsed up here, and coming all the way down to the heart. Whoops, that's not gray. Here are splanchnic nerves, preganglionic, that are coming out of here, passing through the ganglion but not doing anything, and going down to synapse in front of the aorta down there. Okay, so this is just the sympathetic chain as such. Okay, so what you see is, like I say, a ganglion, a ganglion, a ganglion, a ganglion at every level throughout here. And then there's fibers connecting these ganglia, because some of them are these ascending fibers going up to synapse at higher levels, and some of them are descending, going to synapse at lower levels. When you get up here, you don't have an individual ganglion at each cervical vertebrae, whether you have giant ganglia that have all coalesced. So you have a superior cervical ganglion, a middle cervical ganglion, and a stellate ganglion, or inferior cervical ganglion, which is also blobbed onto T1. So you can identify if you dissect out if you look along the side of the spinal cord, you will see these ganglia all up and down, even down here in the sacrum. But when you get up into the neck, you don't see individual ganglia. You see big blobby things. Okay. The question that's been asked at least 25 times so far. T1 through T5, innervation of the heart. Okay, so they originate. The fibers, the sympathetic innervation originates in T1 through T5 in that intermediolateral column. Travels out through the ventral roots. Travels into the spinal nerve. Follows into the ventral ramus. Okay? Goes through a ventral ramus to the ferrovertebral ganglia. Some of them may synapse there, and then postganglionics hit out there and go to the cardiac plexus. Some of them may travel uptown to the inferior cervical ganglion, synapse there, come down and go to the cardiac plexus. Some of them may go even higher. These are the real social climbers. Go up to the middle cervical ganglion, synapse there, and then come back down to the cardiac plexus. Or the real ones, I want to see the top of the Empire State Building, go all the way up the superior cervical ganglion, synapse there, and then follow the path all the way down to that cardiac plexus. So the cardiac plexus, all of these are postganglionic. They all had the synapse in different places, but some of them synapsed close to home, some of them synapsed, 8 or 10 vertebrae away.
We don't have to go to the gray ramus after the synapse?
Yes, that's a gray ramus, that's a gray ramus, that's a gray ramus.
The green hour is gray ramus.
Those are gray rami that are coming from whatever ganglion they synapsed in and going down to the heart. Yes?
Why? Why would it go back up to come back down?
As I've said before, when you were an embryo about this big, your heart was in your neck. So the easiest way to, where am I going to get some sympathetics? Oh, there's a superior cervical ganglion. Why don't I just grab one of those? And then as the heart got bigger and bigger and started floating down, why different parts of the heart get them from different areas? I have absolutely no idea. Yes?
So that bottom right part is what I was asking about before. But so do they do that, or is it just like in theory they can do that and then don't do that?
What?
Because I was asking that before, I was confused. Like, I thought that from the paravertebral ganglia, like they can go straight to the cardiac whatever.
Yeah.
Plexus.
The point is, for reasons that I do not understand, the sympathetics going to the heart come from lots of different directions. Some actually, are just hang out. They're just, are just thoracic postganglionics. Many of the postganglionics are coming from the neck. Whether there's something special about these versus these, I do not know.
So do they do that? Right.
Yes, all of these are done. People who have sat down and mapped these fibers find that some of the fibers in the cardiac plexus have postganglionics coming from where the heart is, in the upper part of the thorax. Some of the fibers are coming from the lower part of the neck, some are coming from the middle part of the neck, and some from the upper part of the neck. So there's a lot of pathways for a nerve to get to the heart, a sympathetic nerve to get to the heart.
So on the test, do you want us to write down superior, middle, inferior, cervical? Is there like a name that we can just say?
No, they're separate things.
Okay, so write all of them down.
Absolutely. Yes?
So you said it synapses and then goes out the gray ramus to the heart?
Oh, sorry.
So,
Yes,
so,
yeah,
so the gray ramus can go to the ventral ramus or the dorsal ramus or directly to the heart?
Well, the gray ramus is we're using gray ramus as postganglionic. Technically, the gray ramus is the part that goes into the spinal nerve, into the spinal nerve. From then on, it's just a nerve. It's not the gray ramus is the little short part that goes from the ganglion back to whatever nerve it ends up being. Right. You don't call it a gray ramus when it's coming down, but it's carrying postganglionic fibers.
Right, but doesn't it go from the paravertebral ganglion straight to the heart?
I do not know. I think they go back into a spinal nerve, but I don't know.
So they go back to the gray ramus and then to the heart?
The gray ramus goes into the spinal nerve, and then they go from there to the heart, I believe. Yes.
Okay, so I'm still trying to figure
I have been using gray ramus to indicate postganglionics in the generic sense. They actually have their own name, it'll be superior cardiac nerve or middle cardiac and stuff like that. But the point I'm trying to make is that gray rami are postganglionic things that have already synapsed. Okay, you don't call it a gray ramus that's dangling down from the neck to the heart, but it's carrying postganglionic fibers. It's a gray ramus only when it's going, that little thing about that big, going from the ganglion back up to wherever it's going. Yes?
Alright, on the test, do you want us to put T1 to T5 or do you want us to do cervical?
Well, it depends on what the question is, doesn't it? If you ask what is the source of preganglionics going to the heart, it's T1 to T5. If we say what is the source of postganglionic fibers going to the heart, it's fair. Most anything, it would appear, from T5 up to, according to this, there's lots of different ways they could come down. It's too vague a question, we probably wouldn't answer it. We could have true false. Postganglionics from the heart all come from T1 to T5, and the answer is false, but some of them come out of the cervical region. Yes?
Just to clarify, let me answer.
To clarify? Why would I want to clarify? I spent an hour and 10 minutes confusing you people. Yes?
So if we're going to write out the pathway, we're just going to write
T1 to T5 paravertebral ganglia, then one of these three, and then right to thoracic, sympathetic cardiac. We're not going to write gray ramus or.
The gray, you should have didn't know where the gray rami or white rami connect the ganglia to the ventral ramus, and
So when we're writing from paravertebral ganglia, what's the next step? We just not write from thing.
from paravertebral ganglia, once they've synapsed, their postganglionic's going to whatever.
So we're not going to write. We're writing the pathway. We're not going to write gray ramus.
To get out of a ganglion, the gray ray might come out of the ganglion. Yeah. If you look at the nerves, you see coming out of the ganglia, there's a gray ray is going back to the
It's not necessary to write.
Yes, you should write it. Okay, moving right along. Parasympathetics. Fortunately, this is really easy. Parasympathetics, like sympathetics, are a two-nerve system. The good part is you never see the second part. So parasympathetics, like I say, they either come from the brainstem. There's a whole bunch of them you'll learn about later in the course. The only one you've seen is vagus nerve. And then there's some parasympathetics down here in the sacral region. Okay. However, everything you will ever see parasympathetics are preganglionic. The ganglia where the preganglionic synapse and give rise to postganglionics take place in the organ which is being innervated. So when vagus nerve starts from the head, runs down through the thorax, runs down through the abdomen, and ends up somewhere in your large intestine, that whole thing is all preganglionic, and somewhere in the wall of the large intestine is synapses, and there's a postganglionic that does its job, but you will never see them. Okay, there are two neurons involved, but you will only see the preganglionic because all the synapses take place within the organ internally. Okay, so as we were saying, all preganglionic parasympathetic axons are carried by the vagus in the thorax. Preganglionic axons from the vagus join postganglionic axons to form join the sympathetic postganglionics to form plexuses. So that cardiac plexus has preganglionics from the vagus and postganglionics, as we all know, that came from various thoracic and cervical levels. So the